Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. This video is part 2 of a subscriber Q&A that I have been working on. I answered a ton of questions in part 1, and I decided to break this thing up into 2 separate videos because there were a lot of questions. And so I'm very thankful for those questions, but I also want to try to keep the videos somewhat tight so that people can actually absorb them and digest them. And so we're going to continue looking at the questions on my phone if my battery does not die, because I've had it on through the entire part 1 and now we're getting into part 2. So let's see what we can do. All right. So Steve Carter asked a question. He says, how about grading comics? He says, I see a lot of eBay sellers where people grade comics that aren't very accurate. Example, selling near mint, but the actual comic condition is actually fine. Yes, that is correct. So there's a couple of things there. Steve. We have to remember that not everyone who is actually selling a comic on eBay is actually a comic collector or actually knows anything about comics. And so we use the terms near mint, and that term actually means something. But there's a lot of people out there that simply see that term when they go to sell something and they just cut and paste from someone else, or they repeat the verbiage without really understanding the meaning behind it. And so I don't think that these people are trying to deceive anyone, especially when they post up photos that illustrate that it's not near mint. I don't think that they truly know what those terms actually mean. And yes, there are some people that will probably use that term and are trying to mislead people. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about it. But I would say that my experience has been, in some cases, when I actually have pointed out to sellers that that book is not near mint and highlight why it's not near mint, they have actually acquiesced. And I've actually done that on a lot of the apps that I use, like OfferUp and Let Go. I will see people posting up things that are saying near mint or raw, and they have these rare, and they have these really high prices. I will reach out to them and basically say, no, this comic is actually not that rare. Your price is a little off based upon the condition, and I will actually try to educate them so that they can actually price their things affordably. And so I think that there is a combination of things that are happening here. But I think what's really important, to be honest with you, is that you as the seller have to be able to look at the photos and evaluate for yourself what the potential grade of that comic might be, and to determine from that grade what a good price might actually be. And then to reach out to that seller to offer them a price for that book that is actually commensurate with the actual condition and the value of that comic. And so, great question. I don't know if I'll do a video on it, but let me noodle it, because you never know. You never know what'll happen as I continue to think about this question. I think it's a good one. Matt Forge, hey Reg, I know I asked this on IG the other day, but maybe we can get a little more in depth with the video. Pros and cons of using CGC versus reputable pressing service. If a number of books, age of books, value of book, change, condition, etc., changes your way of thinking. So I think that, and we did talk about this recently. So I am a fan of pressing my own comics. As you guys know, there's actually a 4-part series here on the channel. And if you search for Regie Collects Pressing, you will find the 4-part series in which I show you my entire process for pressing comics. I was reluctant to press my own comics. I thought that it was a very cumbersome, very time-consuming, tedious process. And it is, but it is also something that can save you a ton of money, to be honest. And so if you are interested in that, you definitely want to search for that video or those videos. You definitely want to watch them, because I think it'll give you a leg up in figuring out whether you actually want to press your own comics. Prior to pressing my own books, I actually sent all of my books to CGC or CCS to have them press the books. And I experimented one time with actually sending my comics to a third-party presser to have them press the books on my behalf and send the books back to me before sending them to CGC. That experience was not a positive one. I sent my comics off. My comics were damaged by the United States Postal Service. Massive corner ding on all 4 comics that I sent. The presser was unable to repair the damage. He was able to improve the damage, but the damage was done. And he also ended up popping one of the staples on my comic. He actually pressed the book too tight and pressed the staple through the book's cover. And mind you, it was a variant. It was a Young Guns variant of Spider-Man, and it was a book that I really liked. And so for me, that kind of ruined it for me. Could I send the books to another reputable presser? Yes, but this person came pretty highly recommended and kind of messed things up for me. But part of my hesitation is not the fact that this person damaged my comic. It is the process through which I would have to mail my books to and fro to get them pressed. So I would have the books, I would have to send them to the presser to be pressed. So that's one mail. The presser would press the books and take how much ever time, send the books back to me. That's another mailing. I would have to then get the books, evaluate the books to see whether that book should still be sent in to CGC, because not every book that is pressed is a book that you would still send in, because sometimes when the book is pressed, you actually see defects that you didn't see before. So you still have to evaluate that book, right? And then you have to then bundle up all those books a third time to send them to CGC to be graded. And then they have to be mailed back. So you're mailing your books basically 4 times. It seems a little risky to me considering how the United States Postal Service and UPS and FedEx handle packages. And so it was easier for me to bundle my books up and to send them to CGC one time as quickly as possible. And so I think you would have to evaluate the risk of having your books damaged in the mail, as well as the cost of having your books be mailed multiple times, the cost of insurance if you choose to have insurance, or you have to value the risk that you're taking that your comics could potentially be damaged versus simply sending them to CGC/CCS to be graded. There is no wrong answer. I think each one of us has to decide what is best for our collection, what is best for our wallets, and then do that thing. Hopefully that helps Matt better explain some of my thinking around pressing. And yes, no doubt CCS is expensive to press comics. No doubt about it, which is why I started pressing my own, which is why I created that 4-part series for you guys to help you save some money. Glitter and Duct Tape says, Reggie, I would like to know what made you decide to create an Instagram and YouTube related to comics. He says he is grateful for both. I think what motivated me was guys like Jim Mint and Jim Comics and Sell My Comics, who were out there making these really awesome videos, and ETA Nick and Reaper Tate, who are making all of these great videos that I used to watch every single morning while having breakfast at the end of 2017. And these guys were making really great content, and they were interacting with other comic book fans everywhere. And that kind of inspired me. And I said, if these guys are having fun making these videos and just talking to the camera, could I do it too? And I decided to pull the trigger because I just wanted to have some fun. And I've spoken about this before in that I don't have friends that are into comics. I never really have. My wife's not into comics. She indulges me, right? But that's not her thing. And so I saw through the YouTube and also the Instagram an ability to reach out to the comic book community and to be able to engage with people that are passionate about this hobby the same way that I am. And that is, so it was these guys that motivated me. It was this desire to connect with other collectors that just love comics that inspired me to actually create my Instagram page and also my YouTube. And I have a fitness page, but that is like fitness and life and family, whereas this one is primarily geared towards comics. And again, I'm having a ton of fun interacting with people, doing videos like this, and it's enjoyable. So hopefully, glitter and duct tape, that answers your question, my friends. I'm gonna go ahead and like this one as well. If you had a run, this is from Brian Hart. If you had a run of comics, let's say Avengers, Venom, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Batman, Defenders, Hulk, anyone, which would be the first run you would sell off? Avengers. Easy. Oh, wait, maybe not. Iron Man. No, Defenders, followed by Iron Man, followed by Avengers, followed by Hulk, followed by, I'm not selling the last three of Venom, Spider-Man, Batman. Not selling those. And the reason for that is that I'm not a big Iron Man fan. Not a big Iron Man fan, not a big Defenders fan, not a big Avengers fan, but I dig Venom, Spider-Man, and I dig Batman. So there you go. Easy breezy. Easy breezy. All right, so scrolling down. Hot topic of the week, first appearances. What's your opinion? Do I care? Yes, I care about first appearances, care about cameo appearances, care about appearances in general. Because, I mean, first appearances are keys, right? And so I love reading the origin stories of characters. I love seeing how characters are first introduced to comics. I think that that's just a cool aspect of the hobby. So yeah, I'm definitely invested in that. There's all these true first appearance, cameo appearance. Some of that stuff gets a little too nuanced for me. I try to cover my base and just buy all the early appearances, and that way I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, I dig first appearances for sure. I dig keys. I like keys. And so yeah, there you go. Oh, Nicholas. Nicholas says, how do you keep your skin so fresh looking and your smile so white? I'm not answering that one. All right. So, Dan wants to know the question. He asked the question twice here. He says, what price guide do you use when buying and selling? So I don't think that there is a price guide or price service that is the best. That is perfect. I think you find one that works for you, and then you use that one to buy and sell comics. Oftentimes what I see is that people will shop around for the best price, right? They will shop around for the highest price when they're trying to sell, and the pricing guide that has the lowest price when they're trying to buy, in order to explain why they are offering what they're offering or trying to sell for what they're trying to sell for. So my personal preference is Go Collect. I have used Go Collect long before I developed a relationship with them where they sponsor aspects of this channel. I liked the clean layout of their website. I like the ability to easily search for things and find things and to find prices. I use GPA, I found their website to be messy. I found it to be very tough to navigate. I found very difficult to search. And so if I am trying to find the price of something for the purpose of buying or selling, I want to be able to find that thing without a whole lot of muss and fuss. And so Go Collect is one that I've enjoyed. I like Go Collect. And one of the drawbacks of Go Collect is that they don't have raw comic prices. So that's a little bit of a drawback. They are primarily slabs. What's great about them is that it is both CGC and CBCS. GPA is just CGC to my knowledge. And if I'm wrong about that, I will definitely correct it. But I like that Go Collect is more comprehensive in its reporting. I think that comicspriceguide.com is another service that I really dig. I've had them here on the channel. If you're interested in seeing that interview, you can always search for Regie Collects Comic Price Guide. And there was a great interview that I did with their VP of Marketing, and he represented himself incredibly well. Ron's an awesome guy. I like that pricing service primarily for raw books, because Go Collect doesn't have raw. I go to Comics Price Guide to basically price out my raw comics when I am buying or selling. I use that consistently. And I'm a big fan of, if I am selling a book, I will tell you what the FMV is, and that is the sales price. I'm not doing future selling of the value of a comic. It is what the FMV actually is. How do I store my comics? I don't really know what that question is, but I'm going to try to answer it. 90% of the collection is in poly bags with backing boards. There is another nice portion of the collection that is in Mylars. I use the 2 mil archival bags from BCW. They're Mylars. Archival is the name. Mylar is the type of product. All of them are stored primarily off to my left in BCW double-walled bins. And I use the double-walled because if you watch a video on the channel here, those things are super sturdy. You can stack them pretty high without damaging them. So I have comics off to my left, I have comics off to my right, I have comics behind me. There are some higher value comics, some keys and things like that, that are actually contained in BCW plastic bins with the locking mechanism. That way I can actually protect them from my children. And those are actually stored in the table below behind me below the table. So let's see. I think that might actually be it. I think that might be most of the questions. So there's a question here from Matthew. I lied. There's a question here from Matthew. He says, what are your top 5 Amazing Spider-Man comic covers? Oh man, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do this off the top of my head. I would say Amazing Spider-Man 50 is probably one of my favorite. I have no Amazing Spider-Man back there to help me. There is Amazing Spider-Man, I think, is it 15 or 20? It's 20. I think with the first appearance of Scorpion. I love that cover. Not quite sure why. Definitely love that cover. What was this question again? Top 5 Amazing Spider-Man. I am not going to be able to do this off the top of my head, Matthew. And again, what I'm trying to do is to respond to these impromptu, which is a little difficult because I can't remember all the numbers. So you're going to have to forgive me. There is Amazing Spider-Man, I think it's 55. Which is the Doc Ock cover. It's Doc Ock's head. Love that book. Let's throw in Amazing Spider-Man 110 in there because it's the first appearance of the Gibbon, and who does not love the Gibbon? And then just an easy layup, Amazing Spider-Man 1. Right? That's just a classic cover featuring the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man under glass. You can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with Spidey 1. So I think that's 5. I think that's 5. And if it's not, let's just say that it's 5. What's my first favorite food? I have 2, burgers and sushi. That is from Obigai. Obigai, burgers and sushi. Those are my 2 favorite foods. And I think, is that it? I'm liking a couple of comments here because I answered a couple of these questions before. All right, I think that is it. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the second part of this video in which I responded to questions from you, the subscriber. If you missed part 1, please go back and check that one out because there were a lot of questions in that one as well. I want to thank everyone that submitted questions. I want to thank everyone that is currently watching this video. I absolutely appreciate you guys. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so at RegieCollects on Instagram and RegieCollects@gmail.com. Take care.